bootstrapping your business, and versus taking investments or taking on a partner or things like that. And I've had a couple of experiences semi-recently that have kind of really made me thankful that I've done things the way that I've done them. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Now, I'm going to preface this that this is my experience. And I know, first of all, it's my experience doing what I do, which is different than if you are starting, a flooring company and you need a van and you need like a $7,000 sander and you need like, if you need to take out a loan or get an investor, like I know there are certain things where you need capital to fund things. You're starting an app. Like I get all of that. But what I'm talking to and what's worked for me is the fact that I was able to learn the things that I didn't know, and I was able to the investment that I made was my time. And by choosing to invest my time into things that I was interested in, things that I thought I could package and sell eventually, I was able to limit my exposure, take a calculated risk, and just move forward, like inch forward at a time and not be in a hurry. And I think that's one of the things where I think that's a big hurdle for people, because you always want to be 6 months, a year down the road from where you are. And I think a lot of times people think, well, if I only had $50K in the bank, then I would be able to like take a shortcut and get this much further. But the difference is, and I'm talking again, businesses that can be bootstrapped. Okay. Like if you're like what I do as far as marketing stuff, like find one thing you're really good at, sell that service to somebody. And then if you find other things that are related to that and start adding to your skill set and building it and building it and building it. And what I mean is I started, let's say I'm 48. I've been out in the workforce for 25 years, 48 years old. So I started working, like out of college. I was 22, 23. And so for the last 25, we'll just say 25 years, that's close enough, that I've been in the real world. I've had four years I've been working for someone else. The other time I've been working for myself the entire time. And I'm proud of that, because when I was working for myself, I was paying for a mortgage. I'm paying for, paying rent, like all the regular expenses, you know what I mean? Buying a car, doing all these things. Don't have kids yet. So I never had that, that added expense, which is large, obviously. So again, I'm speaking to my experience here, but what I was able to do was, and I'll use my most recent transition from W-2 employee to self-employed, which happened 6 years ago. I was able to figure out, when I got that job in January of 2016, within a month, I knew like, this is not my long-term home. Okay. And so I knew that I needed to find something else to do. And I didn't know if that meant going to work for somebody else in a similar field. I was selling radio advertising. Or if I needed to start my own thing. I really didn't know. But I was paying attention and I knew what I was good at. And so I had built up my audience on social media for music, and I had built a pretty decent little brand for myself, enough for me to make a comfortable living doing things. And so I knew I had that skill set. So then I had to figure out how to apply that skill set, how to package it, how to sell it. And once I did that, I was able to, there was a window of time when I was working 3 jobs. You know what I mean? And I was doing the sales job. And then in January, I was doing the sales job. I started January of 2016. By the time January of 2017 came around, I knew that I was going to definitely want to bounce. I knew that I did not want to stay at that company any longer. So I started my long-term plan. I was able, at that time, I was still playing music. So I started playing music 3 nights a week. I said, okay, I'm just going to bank this cash because I don't need this money right now because I'm living on my 9-to-5 job, right? And so I would go out and I'd play music 3 nights a week, something like that, and just put that money away. Then when I realized that I could sell, I can sell my social media services to clients. Then I started picking up. I got my first couple of clients, and the first place I went was I used, my network, the bars I was playing at. These guys, this is 2017. They hadn't, they were posting stuff to Instagram, but they weren't really doing it. And you could still get a lot of leverage off of organic social media. And so I said, hey, I can help you with this. Picked up 2 clients, picked up 2 more clients, picked up my 5th client by, I don't know, October. And that's when I quit. That was when I was like, okay, I've been saving up money it took me 10 months of working, 3 jobs essentially. They're starting that 3rd job. Really, got my first client in July, but I was working to figure out how to get that client between like April. So January, I start playing music. April, I figured out, hey, I think I can do the social media thing. And how am I going to package it? How am I going to sell it? Blah, blah, blah. Get that done by July, sell my first couple clients, pick up another couple clients in August, get another client in October, quit my job, but I'd been working the whole time. So my point is, I was never overextended, and I never just quit the job on like a wing and a prayer. I never held my breath and hoped that something would work. I proved out the concept, and I sacrificed my time to make that work. And now we're going to fast forward, and I'm going to tell you why I think that, like, in hindsight, that was so great. Because if you have, look, let's just say you get an investment money that when I say you didn't really earn it. Let's just say you get a lump sum of cash and you're starting a business. You've never started a business before. The problem is you don't know what you don't know. And one of the things you're going to have to do, regardless of what business you're in, is you're going to have to market yourself. And the hard part about starting something from scratch is figuring out, is there a fit in the is there a fit in the market for the product or service that you're selling? And you don't, until you start selling it. This is something my dad taught me a long time ago. Whatever you're selling is only worth what people are willing to pay you for it. I'm going to say that again. It doesn't matter if it's a product, if it's a service, whatever. Whatever you're selling is worth exactly what people are willing to pay you for it, and not a penny more. So you can do research, and you can do homework, and you can hire people, but until you actually sell the thing that you're selling, you really don't know what people are willing to pay for it. And there's no way to know that until you get somebody who's not a family member or a friend or an acquaintance, until you get a perfect stranger to actually purchase your product or service. And along the way, it's really easy to get taken to the cleaners by people when you've got a lump sum of cash. And you're like, if you have money to spend and you don't have the expertise of how to bring a new service to market or bring a new product to market or whatever, a lot of the things that you might hire out, you would be very wise to learn enough about those things, even if it's not, like, here's an example. Like, let's say, okay, well, I want to bring a product to market in 8 months. So I should be on social media. I should be doing content. That doesn't mean that you have to become the best video editor in the world. But what that means is I need video content. You realize you need video content, and you try to figure that out on your own. And you try to figure it out before you bring in an agency or somebody who's going to show you all this stuff, and this works for our clients. And unless this agency is like specialized in your niche, you know what I mean? Then they are not going to have a dollars for dollars example to show you. They don't know what's definitely going to work unless they've sold a product or service that's exactly like yours in the exact market that you're selling it. And if they're working for your competition, that to me is a red flag too. So my point is, if you have the ability, which we all do now, especially when it comes to marketing and sales and product fit and all of that, you really need to educate yourself before spending money on things that you don't know anything about. Like, especially in the marketing world. That's what I can speak to, because it is expensive to get it done right. And there are a lot of people out there that will do things and charge you for things that you could, quite frankly, at least get an idea of how to do on your own in a relatively short amount of time. So that's my point. And it's a big risk. If you take out a loan, or if you bring on an investor and they inject you with a large lump sum of cash, I think it's really easy to fall back on, I'm just going to hire somebody to do this. And that makes sense. You do have to delegate things. But if you're hiring somebody to do something that you've never hired somebody to do before, that you've never had any experience with them before, you are ripe to getting taken to the cleaners. It's like taking your car to the mechanic almost. Like if I take my car to I have to have a mechanic I trust because I don't know shit about cars. So if I take my car to the mechanic, this guy could literally, there was a scene in Seinfeld where, nobody, George made a comment, nobody knows what's going on. They could tell you your Johnson rod's thrown, it's going to be $1,500. And that's really what it is. But it's a bigger scale when you're dealing with things like trying to bring a service to market or a product to market or whatever. And you can lose 10 grand like that. And so for me, it's like in hindsight, I'm like, man, it was a long road. The thing you can't do if you're bootstrapping your business for real is you can't be in a hurry. And as soon as you put yourself in like, well, I've got to be making $5, $10, $15, $20, $50,000 a month. Once you put yourself in the position where if I'm not making this money in the first 3 months, then I'm sunk. If you put yourself in that position, you're setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion. And it's something where it's almost like putting a time limit on it. You don't know unless you've done this before. And if you've done this before, then then everything I'm saying, you don't need to take to heart. But if you haven't done it before, if you haven't started your own business, if you haven't brought a product or service to market, then you really need to do your due diligence before you spend a penny to anybody else. So for me, it's like I took the time to learn to do all this stuff. And I'm to the point now where I have services that are scalable, but it took me 6 years to get here. And this is 6 years of me working like a dog and trying to figure this out. Like I look at it, like my perspective is kind of unique because I took a 15-year detour in my life. So yeah, I'm in my late 40s right now, but honestly, I'm more of in professional years, I'm like a 33-year-old because I took 15 years off and I went and played music. And yeah, I was learning a lot of the stuff that I use today as far as social media tools and audio production and things like that. But I sure wasn't learning business development stuff. I mean, yeah, I knew how to sell stuff, but I didn't know how to build out back-end systems and processes because I was just working for myself. So I only had one client. So I was calling, I probably had like a database of people that I would call and, I would prospect in different markets and things like that. But I wasn't focused on scaling anything because I couldn't scale myself because I was one musician, right? So anyway, my point is, if you have to take on an investor or a partner or a loan, then obviously you have to do that. But I think, from my experience at least, if you can afford to invest your own time and become wise in regards to the things you need to spend your money on, it's going to pay you back tenfold in the long run. It's going to save you time and money. Because if you let's say you just hire somebody and they help you, they say, okay, you've got this product's going to sell for X amount of dollars and, this is how you can market it, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's good. That's great. And then you go and you follow the steps they gave you and none of it works. Well, what do? You've lost however much money you spent on them and how much time you spent working with them. And it's really dangerous. So if you can take the bull by the horns and get in there and get under the hood and at least learn how to speak the language, at least kind of know, like if you're looking at and one of the things that a client of mine and I are dealing with right now is we have had issues with, SEO and SEO companies in particular. And we're like, all right, well, why don't we just buy SEMrush? Let's just buy SEMrush. Let's just figure it out, And in hindsight, we probably should have done. I probably should have brought that to the table in the past myself. It wasn't my call because it's not my money. It's my client. I'm handling the content. But on the other side of things, but in hindsight, I'm like, that's a really good idea. At least understand how that tool works, because most SEO companies, they're either using Ahrefs or SEMrush, or they're using a similar tool, and they're experts using that tool. But at least if you buy that tool for 6 months and you get on YouTube and you figure out how to use it, like, you look under the hood, you know what you're paying for. You're not just hoping and praying that these people are doing right by you. So I'm a big believer in figuring things out for yourself. And the partnership thing, it's like, I've had a few where it's been really close, gonna partner up with people, and the things have not panned out. And I feel like it's been one of those deals where none of it was, again, there was none of it, like, it's only happened twice in the last 6 years. And neither time was, there was no malicious behavior on anyone's end. It was just, we got to the point where it was time to go, and we had different ideas on how to do things. And so we split, and that's, you hear about that. And this is something I've talked to my dad about a lot, because my dad owned a business and he was approached by people to become partners. And he was always like, look, it's a lot easier to do stuff on your own. And my clients, who are small, medium-sized business owners of all, they range in like revenue and things like that. They're the same way. They've dealt, like, I've watched it happen with my friends, with my colleagues. They have partnerships. Those partnerships fall apart. I've seen partnerships end up in court. I mean, people that were friends for decades, and just completely, the friendship is gone. The partnership's in the toilet. There's lawyers involved. I mean, like, when you see that stuff, it's like, wow. And that's what I think it was Dave Ramsey that said, the only ship that will never sail is a partnership. I think it was Dave Ramsey, but it was a great quote. Whoever said it, it's a great quote. I wish I could give him credit for it. But anyway, so if you have the ability to keep it in-house with yourself, I think that's the best thing. And the other thing is, the more stuff you can learn how to do out of the gate, the better off you're going to be, because then when it is time to delegate, you've got experience in at least what you're delegating. You know what I mean? Like, you've done it yourself. It makes it easier to hire somebody to wear that hat. Take that hat off and give it to somebody else, but at least you know what they're doing, and you can effectively manage them in that role.